here. And on behalf of Financial Divorce Advocate, I want to welcome you to this very special real estate focused webinar. I am the founder and CEO of Financial Divorce Advocate. I'm a boutique firm that focuses on empowering women as they're going through the divorce process to not only be able to get what they should be getting, right? And not take their husband to the cleaner, but also help improve their financial confidence. I've been doing this work for over 11 years, and I only work with women that are going through divorce, and I absolutely love it. But I can't do this work alone. And so as part of our initiative, I've been doing this from the very day one, which is, hey, I want to collaborate. I want to collaborate with like-minded individuals who are focused on empowering women as well, and have had the opportunity to not only help Amy as a client, but also have her as part of our resource community for all of the women that are going through divorce. And so her area of expertise is um, real estate home purchases, sales, but she also has experience in rental properties. So she's been a landlord, she's been had the ability and opportunity to be able to purchase and manage real estate properties. And she also has experience internationally as well. So I want to, with great joy, right, introduce you to Amy Slate, who is your breakup broker.
You are too much, Rhonda. Thank you for that introduction. I do have a deck that I like to kind of share so that I can walk through and keep myself on track of everything that I do want to cover today. So I'm going to do my best to share screen. I promise I'm not new to Zoom. I need sharing turned on, please.
Just a reminder, again, make sure that you've got your chat up. So if there are things that come to mind that you want to make sure that we capture, please do not hesitate to post them in the chat.
All right. Here we go. And I tend to be a bit of a fast talker. So if I am speeding through things, tell me to slow my roll and I will do exactly that. So as Rhonda just said, here we are. My cheesy little title, new chapter, new keys. It's kind of how I feel about this whole endeavor. So with that, let's get it started. So why we're here. If you have been through divorce or know someone going through divorce, I don't want to assume that we all are divorcing or divorced, but if you have, you know that there are huge financial and emotional shifts. And that can kind of throw you for a loop at times. And I'm going to move, sorry, I'm moving my screen or not. Nope, I can't. Okay. So divorce, it happens. There's lots of money. Who knows what happens with all that money, but suddenly you may find yourself with a bucket of cash. And this is your chance to kind of redefine what your future looks like and kind of chart your own course, your own path. And for me, over the last 2 decades, real estate as a married person, unfortunately, was part of that whole financial package. And I want to share how that can help you make some money as well. A little bit about me. You don't have to read the boring bio on the left, but basically, I have bought and sold real estate for 2 decades, personally, before I even was a real estate agent. And now, especially, I've been an agent 8 years now. And since then, I've been investing more and more. I've managed properties. I've found tenants. I've managed leases. I've gone to housing court, all the things that come as part of the package. I have done. And also I put the divorced past tense. I'm in the home stretch. I can taste the finish line. I'm almost divorced. And among that has come dividing up property and figuring out values of things and assets and all of that. So I've done it. I've been there. I'm not saying I've seen everything there is to see, but I've learned a lot along the way. Now, 1 second. I really want. Oh no, did I stop sharing? Sorry. Technical difficulties. I'll be with you momentarily.
You're still sharing.
Oh, I am. Okay. I can't see my deck though, so that's not super helpful. I'm going to. Sorry about this. Here we go. Nope.
So as you're doing that, Amy, I think, what's interesting, right, is a lot of times when we're looking at the house, right, a lot of times it may be the biggest asset, right, that people have. And I know that there's also this emotional component where people are like, hey, I really want to try to keep the house. And some of you on this call, right, if you have been working with attorneys, they may have said, hey, you can't keep the house. How many of you have, if you wouldn't mind just popping in the chat, like, hey, somebody told me that. And my response to that is always, okay, based on what? Can you? I don't know. I mean, we gotta dive into the details. We gotta look at the budget. We have to look at the overall assets, and we need to partner with, people that can help kind of look at it from a holistic perspective. 99% of the time, my clients can keep the house. That's all. I mean, and I've been doing this for a long time. So again, we gotta dial in the details. So yeah, so why real estate, Amy?
Back in business. So, we've got just liquid cash, we've got stocks, there are all these things that make up kind of your assets. And for me, real estate has been something that I can feel, I can touch it, right? Like my stocks exist out in cyberspace somewhere. I don't actually kind of have eyes on them necessarily. I also have seen the equity build over time, right? Rental income for those of us who are maybe reinvigorating our careers or coming out of being a homemaker and, raising children and suddenly need some sources of income. Rental income can be exactly that. And there are tax benefits. Again, not a tax advisor, not a CPA or financial advocate, but there are some tax benefits with real estate. So it's very likely if you are divorced or divorcing, you've done some real estate transacting, so it's not brand new to you. And I think when we use the term investor, a lot of women particularly see that as like a boys club. And I have to tell you, there are so many of us women doing it behind the scenes. Like we are the ones running the show. And it's just the guys out there running their mouths. So it's, we know what we're doing. We've run households, we've raised children, all the things. And so I really want you to see divorce as a launch pad to this new kind of endeavor and this new potential business opportunity and income stream for you. So a couple myths that I want to bust. Number one, you need a ton of money to invest. Sometimes you need 20% down, but there are plenty of ways to get around that we can talk about. And you don't need to buy, a giant apartment building. You can buy a little condo. You can buy some little house on the lake. You can buy any of these like kind of smaller real estate. Can I do one more air quotes? I don't know what's up with me today. There are ways to get started in real estate that are not multiple $1 million investments. Myth number two, it's too risky. There's definitely risk involved, but there's also risk in the stock market, right? And so I think mitigating that risk we can do through just educating ourselves, planning, and just being aware of the numbers and the strategy and all of that. And myth number three, I don't know enough. You don't have to know it all. I have learned as I've gone, and I've made some mistakes, sure, but I've learned, or I've asked, and I've watched, and I've listened to podcasts. There's so much information out there to help you understand how to do this that I just want to make sure you know it is so possible for you. And I'm here to support that journey.
Hey, can I share something really quick?
Of course.
So, in talking about the myth number three, right? How many of you have heard that, right? You don't know enough, or you feel it, right? You feel like, hey, I don't know enough. One of the things that I often will say is, and it applies to the situation too, it's the knowledge, right? And the experience that builds the confidence. So really the formula for that is knowledge plus experience. Sometimes we have the knowledge without the experience, which it's, hey, I've got all this theory, I've been reading, I've been listening, I'm doing all this stuff, but I don't know how to apply it. And then on the flip side, you may have experience where like, that did not go how it was supposed to go. And so we've got trial and error. But to your point, Amy, when we can get these things working together and have the people that can help guide us along the way, we can build our confidence and perhaps even accelerate it. Like there's been times when I put myself in those situations so that I realize I don't have to know enough. I just got to surround myself with people who know more than I do and ask really good questions. Even if that's, That's interesting. Tell me more.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So I love these myths, and I'm curious, hey, have you guys heard of these, right? Or are you feeling, right, myth number one or two or three? And if so, which one?
And I will say there are a million Facebook groups that are specific to women real estate investors, where I don't want to say it's like a safe space, but much like Bridge, where there are a bunch of women all kind of with the same needs and questions and concerns. Like there are groups that exist where you can ask anything, and there are so many women willing to help and provide guidance and expertise and mentoring, because they're of the mentality of like, I have achieved this, and so I want to help other people get there too. So, some investment options for beginners. Again, you don't need to buy a 32 unit apartment building. That's not a good idea for pretty much anyone. But there are some super easy, low risk options. My favorite, I recommend to all kind of first time home buyers, but also newly divorced or separated people I know, is house hacking. And this doesn't mean you've got like a stranger sleeping in the bedroom next door. What this is you've bought a home that could be a two-family home. You live in one of the like townhouses or apartments, and someone else lives in the other. It can also be even kind of easier than that. So I don't know if anyone's heard the term ADU. It stands for additional dwelling unit. They're popping up everywhere, almost like think these little tiny homes or a garage that's been converted, things like that. I know a divorced woman who she got divorced, her ex-husband moved out, and she had an apartment over the garage that she would just like let friends and family stay in on occasion. But now she realized, okay, I'm a single income now. I have this apartment over my garage that she rents out to travel nurses. So those are nurses that come and do 3 to 6 month stints. And she's made great money just having someone live above her garage, and pretty low kind of headache. So that's one option. A long-term rentals option too. And this is what we typically think of when we think of investment properties. So you own a single family home or a condo or a 2 or 3 unit, multifamily home, and you've got tenants in all the units. So you're not physically living there. You've got them all with tenants. They're all on leases and they pay you money every month. That's kind of the typical traditional what we know of. And then short and mid-term rentals, if you think Airbnb, VRBO, or even corporate rentals. And this is, again, the travel nurses or a lot of corporations that have headquarters in, Toledo, Ohio. They've got, executives that come in and need to stay for a month or two at a time. There's a lot of opportunity to connect with corporations that need housing for their people as well. So these are just three of the options. There are so many more. But just so you know, it's not kind of a one size fits all. It's more like, what are you willing to do? What are you, not afraid to do? What fits your lifestyle? All of that. Oh, the chat is blowing up. I can't monitor it, so I hope someone else is. So I did some real world examples. These are not just like, hey, I Googled it or ChatGPT did it. These are actually, at least the first two are mine. The third one might be mine as well. So house hacking. When I first got in the real estate game, bought a 2-family, lived in one unit, rented the other unit, right? So the rent I brought in was $2,500. My mortgage was $2,192, and then I put a little bit aside every month for any like upkeep or repairs, needs a new fridge, anything like that. So I was netting $158 a month, which does not look like a lot of money. But don't forget, I was living for free. So I wasn't paying rent, I wasn't paying mortgage, technically. I mean, I physically wrote the check to the mortgage company, but it was kind of being fully funded by the tenant that lived upstairs. Okay. So again, like the bucket of cash at the end of the year is just under $2,000, but I was living for free that whole time. So in theory, that money could have been going to daycare costs or, whatever other things you might have.
And you're building
Real-
equity.
Exactly. Yep. And actually, let me back up. So with a house hacking situation, when you actually live in the property, you are considered an owner occupant. So your interest rate will be lower when you purchase the home, and the down payment required will be lower. You're buying it just like you're buying any old house. So you could have 5% down or something. when you are, an example too, when you buy a home that is strictly for investment, you're not living in there, you are only going to have tenants paying you rent, that typically requires 20% down payment and your interest rate might be a little higher. But if you look at this situation, I'm now renting both units. This was the same home, by the way. I moved out of one and ended up renting both of them. So my income, $39.15, expenses, mortgage stayed the same. I now put a little bit more kind of in the bank in case of things that need to be repaired. So I was netting just over $1,400 a month, which was 17 grand at the end of the year. And again, building equity in that piece of real estate. Little pro tip. So I'm in greater Boston, Massachusetts. Real estate, I realize, is not the same across the country. Purchased this 2-family home in 2012 for just over $200,000. Just sold it this year for just over $600,000. So in a little over 10 years, more than doubled my money. And again, real estate market fluctuates, ebbs and flows. Markets are different across the country. But that's just an example of what you can do with real estate. I have one more example. So single family home. These are good in that you have less people sleeping in the home, right? Less people to cause problems, less tenants, less leases, less people to kind of, I don't know, make your life a headache. But typically the rent that you can get each month might be a little bit lower. So same kind of layout, how much I was getting in rent, how much my expenses were, how much I was saving. At the end of the year, I made $13,000. So not bad for basically not doing much, but calling a plumber once in a while, you know? And again, that same property was appreciating over time. And this one also got sold, and profited right around $250,000 in a decade. So for me, real estate's been a win. I know it's different for everyone, but I think there is opportunity to really get some bang for your buck. I'm going to pause for a minute before I get on to the 5 steps of how to get started. Anyone have any questions? Anything in the chat that someone has seen? Kristen has a question, I think.
Yes, Kristen, go ahead and
Yeah, I have a question. I have twins who are in college and my boys are older, so I have all young adult children. So I've really been looking at trying to possibly get a condo in the area where they can rent instead of, or like live in and then they can rent out a room or something like that. But you mentioned you get a tax break or a lower interest rate if it's owner occupied. Do the children count as owner occupied?
If
My
they
children?
are, I mean, I'm not a mortgage lender and I'm not a tax accountant, and there are always kind of gray areas.
Right.
I have seen situations where one of the children actually goes on the deed. So if that child is living there,
Okay.
then it is quite legally and legitimately owner occupied.
Right.
That comes with other kind of, caveats, but that is
Right.
one way to do it.
I
I
know
would.
I'm trying to get my kids into like getting a condo so there's done renting or whatever.
Mhm.
And I was just watching this today partly because I was like, what if I went in with them?
Yep.
So we can all get our name in on the
Mhm.
thing to help them get started.
Mhm.
Is
Mhm.
that, I mean, I
That's
know it's
totally.
family, but I'm just saying,
It's totally feasible, and I do not want to give legal or financial advice. I've seen it done. Let's just say
okay,
that. Similarly, with kids in college, I have a client who in Boston, he had a kid going to a university and saw the cost of student housing and was like,
right.
that's ridiculous. Bought a little 1-bedroom condo. She lived there. She graduated. Her sister went to school in Boston. She lived
Right.
there. She graduated. Now the third kid lives there. I mean, the guy has made his money 10 times over
No,
just not paying
exactly. And
housing.
I'm just, my daughter is in San Diego and the rental for like there's 9 girls, but it's a $12,500 a month rent. And I'm sitting here going, are you freaking joking right now? This isn't even with any view whatsoever. But it's just what they're
Yep.
charging these students. And so I'm
Yep.
like, let's look at plan B. So
And I will say also having a child in on a real estate purchase early also helps build their credit long
right.
term, kind of gives them a boost. So
Okay.
fully support that. Just know that you may want to consult an attorney or a CPA if you
Right. And
really
just
don't
have the
know.
docs in order. Okay.
Yep,
Thank you.
you bet.
Yeah, it's really interesting too. One other thing that I was thinking of, Amy, as you were kind of talking through this, um, is it's almost like looking at it in phases, right? So like, for example, when people are like, gosh, I don't know if I can purchase something, right? Well, if they did a owner occupied option as phase one,
Mhm.
right? Get themselves situated, get their budget in order, kind of get in the flow. Then after perhaps they could qualify for something else, they then move out, have somebody rent, and then they're off to, this next phase. So I love anytime like there's these creative ways for people to be able to determine, right, how they can acquire a home, be building equity, manage their expenses. I'm all about it. And I think a lot of times women have a lot of fear around the risks, but we have to remember like it is time for us to start investing in ourselves, start investing in things that are going to provide some return because hey, this is not the 70s anymore, right? When in the late 70s was when we could finally we had to have a male co-signer up until that point, and we could then at that point finally start to right take on some of these opportunities on our own, and we need to step into it, be afraid and do it anyways, right? Surround yourself with people who have done it before and can help us because I think there's just a lot of opportunity there. The other thing I just want to mention really quick is that one thing that we are often looking at, that I'm looking at as I'm working with clients is, okay, if there are properties, if there is real estate, how are we factoring that in for support calculations? So who's keeping the property? How much is it cash flowing? Are we including that as part of the support calculations or not? And then also, right, are there capital gains that we need to be accounting for as part of property division? So, those are all things that I'm looking at from my lens as, Amy's looking at it from the real estate. And I love all of this, right? Super helpful. And we also want to keep it in the context of, the divorce process too.
And a fun little side story. I was at a closing recently with a single female. She was buying her first home. She was unmarried. And we're at the closing table and she's signing papers. And one of the lines in the document, at least in Massachusetts, says, Susie Q, an unmarried woman. And she was like, why does it matter that I'm an unmarried woman? And she asked the attorney, she said, do men have to sign and acknowledge that they are unmarried men? And the attorney said, no. The attorney was a woman also. She said, they don't, but I'll be honest, the situation never comes up because it is 99% of the time single women in here buying houses, not single men. And the stats do show that single women overwhelmingly are a larger percentage of homeowners than single men. All right, that's my soapbox. Here we go. All right, how to get started. So just like if you've been through Bridge with Rhonda, she's got steps, she's got it laid out. There's a plan, right? You don't go into this blindly. You get all your information, you ask all the questions, you talk to me, we just brainstorm and Google and figure out a plan. So that's one. And part of that is assessing your finances. So figure out your budget. You know what you've got coming in every month, you know what you might have in the bank for a down payment. Figure out your credit score because that affects the interest rate you're going to get. And I know a lot of us, our credit scores might take a bit of a hit during the divorce process. And that's okay. It's not insurmountable. But if you could get a better rate with a better credit score, let's take some time and figure out how to improve that credit score. Everything is figure outable, as they say. And also any equity that you've got from a marital home that you might have sold all kind of factors into the financial picture. Step two, much like with divorce, we've got our attorneys, our CDFAs, our divorce coaches, we've got our team, right? Real estate is no different. You're not flying solo. There are plenty of people with knowledge and expertise who are here to help you be successful. So a realtor, obviously. You can go it alone. I don't advise it at all. A mortgage lender. And oftentimes, just like in the divorce space, we have incredible networks of people we can share. I can think of 5 amazing lenders off the top of my head who I would personally get a mortgage with, and I'm more than happy to recommend to friends and family. Depending on your state, you might also need an attorney or a title agency. Every state is different. And again, an accountant, especially with investment properties, to help you understand not the ramifications, but like what you'll need to be tracking. My accountant probably hates me because at the end of the year, I'm like, here's a random list of all the things I paid for this house and what I think the water bill was. So really getting organized around that kind of stuff makes your life easier too. All right. Step 3, start small. We've talked about this. You don't need to buy an apartment tower in New York City. Start small. The divorced woman with the apartment above her garage is a great example. If you're selling the marital home, we need to find somewhere to live anyway. Finding a place with some sort of little income producing something is a great kind of help and start in the right direction. So yeah, start small. Step 4, financing. No one ever said this has to be a cash purchase, right? Down payment, yes, has to be some cash, but there are loans. If you have an existing home that you maybe got in the divorce, you can get a home equity line and use some of that to purchase the next home, right? It's all about just running the numbers and figuring out the scenarios that make the most sense for you. And step 5, have a plan B. There may come a time where you don't want to own investment properties anymore, and that's okay, right? You've had too many headaches, or the numbers just don't make sense anymore, or you want to retire to the Caribbean. Whatever those options are, figure out and just be aware of, okay, in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, I'm going to want to sell this, or I'm going to want to gift this to my kids, or whatever the thing is, right? Just have a plan B kind of in the back of your head, so that you know what your options are. All right, some mistakes to avoid. Mistake number 1, jumping in without reserves. So reserves are kind of that little bank account that we have that when the water heater blows, or they need a new refrigerator, or something just unexpected. We're not talking like the regular every month mortgage payment. We're talking the unexpected things that happen when you're a homeowner as well, right? Like rental property problems are basically the same as home ownership problems. There's a roof leak, the toilet stopped working, things like that. The driveway needs to be plowed. It's stuff that you have probably managed just being a homeowner anyway. Mistake number 2, underestimating costs. Again, if you've been a homeowner, you know this. There's your mortgage costs, there's insurance, there's taxes, and that little repair buffer. And just a general word of caution, mortgage lenders will look at your financials and be like, oh, sure, you can afford X. I always like to say X minus a little bit, because I don't want to live off ramen noodles and I like to go on vacation, right? I don't want to totally max out my finances to buy a house because a mortgage lender said I could. So they run the numbers, but I always skew a little bit more conservatively. Mistake number 3, following hot trends blindly. We all get blasted with Instagram and TikTok and the news and the BuzzFeeds and all the things about the hottest, newest investment opportunities. Stick to kind of your plan. Ask the experts, have some conversations with real people, not just influencers, and kind of stay true to that course. And mistake number 4, not structuring your investments in a way that protects you legally. So I will give a personal example. Myself and ex-spouse bought a home as an investment property. His son was living there. Because we wanted owner-occupant rates, he and his son went on the deed and the mortgage. So now guess what? Amy doesn't get 50% of that. Amy only gets 25% of that. So as you are purchasing homes going forward, if you do want to put your kids on, or put a friend on, or put a new partner on, just make sure that you are getting legal documents in place to protect you. Because especially if it's your money going into this home.
Can we just highlight that?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, here's the thing, right? I also think there's like the word of caution for people that once you're on the other side of the divorce process as well, like, hey, Rhonda, I'm never going to get married again. I'm like, okay, but I'm going to buy a house with somebody. And I just want to like lovingly shake them. But like, no, you got to have this stuff in order, right? So like, and again, nobody thinks they're going to be getting divorced, right? When they are making these purchases. But I love this because, I mean, that was 25%, right? That decision cost you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not, chump change. So I appreciate you sharing that on just some of the things that we need to be. And we as women, we need to make sure we've got our stuff in order and we're asking the right questions so that it doesn't come back to bite us later.
And honestly, not even just like relational divorcey stuff. Like I have clients who they were just friends and they knew they couldn't afford things independently. So they bought a condo together and they lived as roommates. And, fast forward, one of them gets in a long-term relationship and wants to buy the other one out. Thankfully, I advised in advance when they were buying, meet with the attorney, get everything laid out so that there is a plan if and when one of you no longer wants to live there or one of you wants to be sole owner. And they did, and everything, they stuck to the plan, and one bought the other one out, and everybody's happy. So just protect yourself, even if you're going Golden Girl style and there's like 4 girlfriends going in on a house, just protect all parties. All right. I genuinely believe this as someone who has been through it. For sure, divorce is an ending of some things, but it is also a reset and a fresh start and a chance for you to prioritize you and figure out what your plan is and build that next kind of best life for yourself. And it's funny, I do think real estate is the thing, right? So personally in my divorce, a lot of stuff got liquidated. I got bought out of a lot of stuff. And I'm already eyeballing, okay, what's my first investment as a newly divorced single woman going to be? Because I know it is the key to getting me more income, basically while I sleep, right? So, next steps. Believe in yourself. I know it sounds scary. I know the word investment or real estate investor sounds like something not attainable. I promise you it is. If I can do it, you can do it. Read some stuff, listen to some podcasts. There's so much out there that you can just hear people's stories and, learn some of the things, trials and tribulations that have happened. And honestly, if you have questions that you can't find answers to, or you just want to talk to me, you want to strategize, I love talking about this stuff. Like, it's kind of weird how much I love talking about it. And I love helping women make this plan for themselves to be successful and earn income and build equity in an asset. So I am always happy to chat. That's me. You don't have to scribble this all down now. I am easy to find at thebreakupbroker.com. Shoot me an email. I'm always happy to find time to chat.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, questions. Yes. So I just want to be able to, we've got a little bit of time, a little bit of breathing room here today, to be able to open up for questions. I know there is a question in the chat, which is, if the divorce is just starting and the plan was to buy a home for an adult child, should I use money for this purchase and put the adult child on the deed? Which was kind of the question, Kristen, you were asking,
Mm-hmm.
So that we've got that information.
I mean, I that's an attorney question. I think that gets a little dicey since the divorce is just starting, and it depends on kind of your current status with the soon-to-be ex-spouse, and if things are amicable, if this is a plan for everyone, kind of how that looks. Just remember, there's one pie that needs to get shared, right? So if it's you and the child, that means you only own 50%, or however that works. It's really going to be a case by case. Not speaking. Oh goodness, yeah. I will say I'm actually going to drop my contact info in the chat.
One of the things that I think is important, right, in all of these pieces is the real estate as you're in the early stages, middle stages, toward the end, right? The real estate piece is always an important component. And as far as, the title transfer and who's keeping it and whatever, I mean, it is really an individualized kind of conversation, right? I think at the end of the day, the other part that I want to mention, which I know was mentioned in the chat, is, hey, it's starting out amicable, but heading into not being amicable. And I think that's the thing that, again, we as women often want to believe that the other party is going to have our best interest and that everybody's going to be playing in the most amicable way as possible. The challenge that I have with the word amicable is that it means devoid of conflict. I don't work with anybody who does, there's always going to be conflict. And in my opinion, the only time that there isn't conflict is if you are agreeing to whatever's being proposed, and then you might be able to skirt the conflict. Or people will say, Rodney, I want to rock the boat. Well, I'm like, listen, sister, the boat's already rocking. So what are we going to do about it, right? We got to take some Dramamine. We got to figure this out. So Elise, I know that you have some really great questions in here. Amy, I'm sure that you have some recommendations as far as reading books, podcasts around this question.
I have some recommendations, but it's also really on like your personal preference if you like to read, if you like to listen, and kind of your style, because there are a million podcasts that have the same message, but sometimes I literally just can't stand the person's voice, so I don't listen to it. Um, so I would, start just searching on your favorite podcast platform, house hacking or real estate investing for beginners. And I can't promise like this is the golden standard. You have to listen to this one because everybody's got kind of different thoughts and opinions, but just start learning and absorbing and kind of generating questions that you might have.
I do have another question. Kind of, it's just for me,
Sure.
I own my home, but like the boys are getting started. They're 23 and 25, and I've been really trying to get them to like do an investment. So I just watching this today is like maybe the three of us go in
Mhm.
and we can get something a little bit better that they can afford better and stop spending 3 grand a month on rent or things like that. Just the cautionary tale is how we do the deed,
It's
or
part of it, part of it. And also just like finances, right? So are you on the hook for the whole thing? Or are they all on the mortgage?
yeah,
And
no,
like,
I would really
how's
want
that
them
going?
to like have an investment part, and I guess that I'll. Okay, yeah. Just because they're 23 and 25 and they have the funds that they could start instead of throwing money away like that. It's just
Yeah.
so expensive to Southern California.
Yeah.
Okay. But it's
And
also expensive to buy, which is
yeah.
why if I was able to jump in, maybe they can. And then
Yeah.
I'm also building my real estate start.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And in that situation would just be, I think the other thing about your situation is like the type of property.
Yeah,
So
we're looking like I'm thinking townhouse or condo. So then that way, if they move out of the area, there's like freaking many, many colleges around there there's always going to be a market to rent the space again.
So my one caveat or word of warning with investing as a condo, which I have owned investment condos, that no
Or
shame there at all,
townhouse or
or
something.
townhouse, when it's part of an HOA. So
Yes,
like with a typical house, your mortgage, your taxes, your insurance stay relatively consistent over time, right? Taxes
okay.
and insurance are going to creep up. With a condo, San Diego, maybe not, but like I had a condo in Florida. If a hurricane whips through and rips all the roofs off, all of a sudden there's a huge assessment that every homeowner's got to pay 40 grand, and that's going to really skew your
Okay.
profit
Okay.
margin.
Right.
And some condos and townhouses have restrictions on what can be rented.
Right. So looking at all those details. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. I just hate watching money being
I
burned.
know. I know.
I
I
really
know.
do.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to figure it out.
Well, and I think to Rhonda's point earlier about, starting a certain way, like I have so many homeowners, younger homeowners, first time buyers who are like, I just want my dream home with a white picket fence. And I'm like,
Yeah.
listen to me. Put that on hold, go buy a two-family that you don't love, live in it for 2 years, make a ton of money, and then go buy the white picket
Right.
fence, right?
Right.
You will be more financially secure and set up for the future by doing that, by just kind of delaying that gratification.
I know, and everyone says buy a duplex. I go, that would be amazing. They just don't have those down there,
I know.
you know?
Yeah,
So it's like,
it's tough.
because my
I've
sister and everyone has duplexes in Minnesota, and I'm like, yeah, we don't have
mhm.
those in San Diego.
I have heard a lot more about ADUs in California or some of the
Yeah.
areas where there's housing shortages, which
Yes.
could be an option. I mean, not that I want to stick you in the tiny home, but like maybe the boys, or I'm assuming they're
Right.
boys, the two kids share the main house and you've got a little kind of in-law suite out back or
Right.
something. And
Right.
all of those things are rentable down the road.
Right. Okay.
The other thing too, and you
Brainstorming
mentioned
with me.
this, Amy, is HOA fees. So it's important to keep that in mind too, because especially if you are going through the divorce process, right? HOA fees, they're going to be looking at that as part of your option or ability to be able to qualify. So they're going to say, okay, you've got, principal and interest and, you know, escrow taxes and so again, it's just kind of
Right.
keeping that in mind as well.
Mm-hmm.
I will throw out one other super wild. You're probably all going to think I'm bananas crazy, but international real estate is so much less expensive than what we experience here in the US, like wildly less expensive. I will share numbers, and this is not like, hey, look at me, I'm fancy. I literally bought a new to me used car last week for $40,000. I bought an apartment in the south of France 3 years ago for $45,000.
Right.
Right. And so, like, if you want a little getaway that's going to be an Airbnb and generate some income, those investments can be a lot smaller, a little bit different of like structuring and management and stuff like that, all totally doable. And typically does have to be a cash purchase, but when it's the cost of a used car, tough to say no.
Yeah, that's interesting, right?
And
I've
even
always
to-
wanted to visit south of France.
the husband got the apartment in the divorce, otherwise I'd give you the key code. And even like the Caribbean, I don't personally own in the Caribbean, but I've seen things in like Costa Rica or
Right.
Panama or Mexico that are, people want to go on vacation, want to stay there. And now that we have the Airbnb, VRBO world, it's, not outside the realm of possibility to,
How cool would it be to just do an FU to your ex-husband that I have a place in? Sorry, I am a coach, but
trust
I'm
me,
just saying
trust me.
sometimes.
Don't think it's not coming, sister.
I know. I'm just saying.
100%.
But
Sorry.
I love that because it helps us, right? Like get outside of the, oh my gosh, can I? Right?
Well,
And
it's
like,
our chapter. We get to rewrite it now.
that's right. Like,
Nobody else is making
exactly.
decisions for us. So I'm just saying,
Yep.
Yeah.
No,
this is a
100%.
good brainstorming. I'm really glad I got your email so I could jump
Okay.
on.
Yeah, no. And I literally I just love talking about this stuff. It's some weird affliction. I was in education for 20 years, so I just love sharing and teaching and helping people get what I have had. Because it's kind of fun too. I mean, housing court not so fun, but the rest of it relatively fun.
Well, and it's interesting too because like I, one of the things that I think is really important, right, is for us to be able to lean into these conversations and think through, how do we navigate through all of these pieces? Because in fact, right, I actually, this was several years ago, purchased commercial real estate. I knew nothing about commercial real estate, right? But had a great team and asked the right questions and, all of those things. And I think at the end of the day, right, I would do it again. But I didn't tell people that I was doing it. I didn't ask for, at the end of the day, right, all kinds of noise. I asked for, the specifics of what I needed, and it was an excellent experience. So I think there's such a great opportunity for us as women to step into these things that we've been afraid of before and realize we can do it. You don't have to know all the answers. You don't have to, you just got to find the right people that can help you.
I just had some more outside the box thinking. And part of this is I'm used to operating in greater Boston where things are how they are. If you've got a garage that you're not using, at least here, people will pay good money to rent a garage space all year long.
Mm-hmm.
And or if you are in the Midwest or somewhere where there are farms and you've got a barn that's not being used, right? Just try and think of spaces in your home that you don't necessarily need to be using that can be used. There, I've seen people rent out part of their yard for people to store their RV for the winter. If you own real estate already, think about how you can leverage what exists, but also as you're exploring buying something new, be like, okay, here's a 2-family, it's great, but it also has this 4-car garage, and I can rent out each of those garage bays every month
Yeah.
for $200 or whatever those numbers are. So I think just thinking creatively about what exists and not just it's a house, it's a home, I make dinner and watch TV. It's a money maker. It is a huge asset. You pay a lot of money for them. Let it pay you back.
100%. There was a coworker last night that talked about having an RV, and she's trying to raise her things. So she's going to do RV for rent sharing,
Yep.
that kind of space too. So just thinking, outside the box, like what you're saying, is trying to find a way to raise your bar,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
you know.
And we're in this, they call it the gig economy, the Uber, the
Yeah.
Airbnb, kind of that world. There is so
I've
much
done
more
it.
opportunity to be sharing our
Yeah.
stuff,
Yeah.
I know people who have a place in Boston, and when there are big events like the Boston Marathon, they go out of town for a long weekend and rent out their place and make a couple $1,000s for a long weekend. So
Yeah.
there's all, if you don't mind someone else sleeping in your bed, I have my limits too, so I'm not pushing that on anyone, but there are always opportunities to make an extra buck.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, at the end of the day, right, it's okay, being able to find that balance between, okay, I'm gonna dream bigger, and yet there's gonna be some things, especially if you're going through the process, you're gonna hold close to the vest until this thing is over, right? But but knowing, okay, like when we're looking at the budget, for example, and we're like, okay, what's your current expense? What's your projected expense? Here's the delta between what you're going to have coming in from all of these various, areas for income. If you're in the red, let's just say $500, right, a month, and now like, okay, instead of me having to go back to work or pick up additional shifts or work, overtime or whatever, I need $500, right? And to your point, Amy, like, okay, if you had a ADU or a place that you could, okay, now we know exactly what that is. Because I think a lot of times we go from 0 to, you know, oh my gosh, I'm going to be homeless. I'm going to be living in an efficiency apartment in a bad neighborhood. I'm not going to be able to make my expenses, or I'm going to have to go back to work full time if you're not already working. Or if you're already working full time, you feel like maybe you need to be either getting a different job or whatever. Like we just kind of catastrophize a lot of these things. But part of my role is like, okay, let's dial that in. So like as we're taking people through the process, it's okay, we're going to review, gather, organize the documents, identify the gaps. Where are the gaps? Well, the gaps may be in, monthly budget. The gaps may be in, hey, here's how much I need to be able to have in order to be able to purchase something else. Like, and we can, really kind of come up with some creative solutions to that. But it does come down to the numbers, right? And I think it just helps you make decisions on, can you keep the house? And if so, what does that look like? I think a lot of times too, like people are really trying to hang on to their homes, especially if they have, smaller interest rates. And at the end of the day, that may make sense. It may not. I mean, if you could refinance and yeah, maybe your interest rate was higher, but you now owe less, or your payment each month is less as a result of that. Like we just got to always kind of like get in and roll up our sleeves and get, crunching the numbers to see kind of where things land. And I think it's taking a real practical approach to see, what some of those options are so you can best move forward. So I love the real estate side. I think it's super important. I think it is one of the things that people get hung up the most on. But I love the simplicity and yet the insight, Amy, of what you shared, because I love the house hacking idea. I think that's a great option, for people that are kind of in this transition stage, of trying to help get, I mean, yeah, you're getting your mortgage covered. And you got a little bit of extra cash each month and you're building equity, like, hello,
Yep.
sure.
Sure.
So thank you so much for sharing that. So as we wrap up our time, any other final questions? Again, I just want to make sure that we are honoring our time together. For those of you who jumped on a little bit late, it is so nice to see you. I am not only the host of the webinar, so thank you, Amy, Breakup Broker, for hosting today, and taking us through this amazing content, but I am the founder of Financial Divorce Advocate, and just really in the trenches every single day helping women navigate through the financial aspects of this process. If you are going through divorce and your divorce isn't finalized yet, there's still time to make sure that you've got all of your I's dotted and T's crossed. If you are on the other side and you're already divorced and you're ready to kind of move forward with the real estate pieces, Amy can help. If you're in the midst of it, she can still help. She can be that creative thinking partner to help you kind of think through some of those options. But as part of our community, my company surrounds you with the right people. And one of the things people have always said is, Rhonda, you find good people. And part of that's because I'm stubborn. And I'm stubborn, but I want to make sure that my clients have, the best people, right, that we can find in these respective areas. And so just let us know how, certainly we can help you. But along those lines, don't wait too long, right? We as women need to learn how to make decisions fast. When we see, because my colleagues who are working with men, the men are not hemming and hawing. They're not thinking, should I not? They make a decision and they move forward. And they're not afraid to hire people to get them the help that they need. And so that's desire for women, right? I want us to be decisive. We can't, nobody on this call can promise that this process is going to go faster. But what I can promise, right, is that you can make decisions faster. And that's what I want us to take ownership, make decisions, and move on. And I think that's really going to be where, as we move into this next chapter, right, our superpower is going to be decisive, confident women who are kicking butt and taking names.
I love that delivery. I'm just going to say it. It was so good.
Yeah.
We do need to chat. I've put my calendar
Yes,
in there
we
again.
do.
We've been
Yes.
trying. So,
So
but no, that
yeah,
was
so
great.
thank you. Yeah, so thank you, Kristen, and everybody that was here today. Thank you so much. Again, Amy put her contact information in the chat. Don't hesitate to reach out. She's happy to connect with any of you. And then for those of you who are here that maybe still need the financial stuff figured out, you're looking for a strategic thinking partner, or you're looking for an advocate in that space before it's too late, happy to help as well. So with that, 5 minutes to spare. My gift to you, our gift to you, right? Go grab a beverage, take a deep breath, go walk outside until your next commitment. But I just want to thank you for your time today. And Amy, thank you for sharing your expertise.
Thank you,
Perfect.
Amy.
Thank you.
All right, have a good day. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.